Pop culture.
Man, so we haven't spent a lot of time because somebody's been working. But I hope we're all caught up on this next topic. It's a great show by the team at Marvel. It's Moon Knight. I will say this to start off with. My wife fell off. She watched one episode with me. It just wasn't her bag, and I knew that going into it. And I was okay with that. So I get to enjoy it selfishly by myself. So, Joe, you're our deep dive
resident messed up crackpot. Yeah.
Messed up
Episode 1 gave me a panic attack.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. So I have PTSD, and one of the things about PTSD that people don't understand is that it can bleed into dissociative identity disorder. And it's not the way they depicted it on that show. It's like grossly oversimplified and too drastic, and people are pissed about that. And they sure, whatever, you know, it's the one time where we see that kind of stuff on TV. I understand people want it shown
right. Well,
right.
Stop. But explain it to me like I'm a 3-year-old.
Okay, bad hurt brain, scary stuff.
I will punch you.
I never spoke to my 3-year-old like that.
Give me an example of
in reference to my situation, because I'm not. This is not too personal for me. I'm open about my situation so other people can learn. Because one of the big problems that I faced with PTSD is I never believed I had it until it just overtook my entire personality and I fell apart. So dissociative identity disorder, it comes in waves. There's different levels to it, but it's all coming through the lens of PTSD. You don't just. It's not like you have it, like schizophrenia. It's something that develops over time and gets worse. So in reference to my situation, I take medication to stop the voices. I know that sounds crazy.
Oh, yeah, voices in your head?
Not frequent, but there's a lot. They call them intrusive thoughts, which then can lead to more of a personality over time if they're not mitigated. Mm-hmm. So for me, when I get extraordinarily stressed, like, and I'm remembering all these horrific events I was a part of, I get these like, you're a piece of shit, you know, you're never going to amount to anything, and that's very typical. So for me, watching him go through that triggered that in me again, and I hadn't had an episode for like 6 months.
So you got to stop watching the show.
No, I love it.
No, give me more.
Yeah. But no, because there's not many shows that actually entice me to feel any feeling nowadays, let alone such a horrifically frightful
So I'm going to
feeling.
pause you right there and then come back to Moon Knight. So I think a lot of people have their inner voice, and they're conscious or their subconscious may give them some type of prompting. I don't. So, and this is like just my personal belief. So I'm not trying to discount what you're saying. I don't accredit that to like a split personality.
That's different.
Yeah, that's why people are upset with Moon Knight.
That's why I'm trying to understand.
Okay, so
because there's sometimes I'm like, there's sometimes when I'm talking to me, I'll be like, "Yo, Dre, what the hell are you doing?" I don't say
Everybody has that conscience voice in their head. That's just natural. No, I take it back. Not everybody. Some people aren't born with it. Like I shit you not. You can be born without it.
Mass murderers and
Mitch McConnell.
Not necessarily. Some normal people can be born without it. It just makes it difficult for them to like distinguish that.
Yeah.
Like you have to take a test, or you have to be very familiar with the subject to really realize you don't have it, because it's one of those unnoticed things about your personality. You know, so. What a lot of people are upset about with Moon Knight is that it's too aggressive. It's like he's Mark, he's Steven, he's Mark, he's Steven. They're like that's not at all believable. There are less than 2% of people who have did. Less than 2% of people who've ever been diagnosed with did had instances that aggressive, and it was very infrequent. So people are like hypersensitive about that. And for me, for somebody who can easily just be overwhelmed with emotions, like relating to my old work job, seeing him struggle with it made me feel comfortable. Like, okay, I'm seeing somebody who's struggling with this kind of stuff too. And it made me, yes, it caused me a panic attack episode 1, but it made me really want to come back into it to see what happens to this character. So I'm hooked.
You are able to relate to the character on that specific level, right?
Yeah, and plus he's a beautiful man, so it's easy to look at him.
So I'm going to say this real quick
about beautiful men.
I listened to the Breakfast Club from Power 105 in New York, and Charlamagne the God and DJ Envy had this like, I don't know what's going on. They do all that shit like you just did. Oh, he's fine, but DJ Envy, you got a prostate exam, right? You put the finger right up. I'm like, yo, like chill with that, right? So I get what you're saying, but you gotta reel that shit back in just a little bit. Like you gotta prepare me for the fact that you may have some clown porn jokes coming up, or some.
Oh, you would think at some point you would just realize that you can't be prepared for what I'm about to offer you.
Obviously not.
That's a good point.
And it's still judgment here. I mean, people get down how they get down, but I was like, he's a good actor, so I'll give you that. He's yeah. That's all I got. So you like the show?
I love the show. I'm hoping they don't fuck it up. I'm really hoping they don't fuck it up. I'm okay with them not doing like the super violent stuff that you see in his comic book because he's a Marvel Knights product.
Yeah, that's why
I'm okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I mean, Marvel in general showed me that they can skirt that line adequately with the Punisher and Daredevil. So I'm like seeing this. I'm like, okay, Disney, don't let Netflix Marvel show you up. You know. You gotta perform, and 2 episodes in, and I think it's pretty well. The villain, I think I love the guy. I want to know more about him. Like, I'm not putting glass in my shoes. That's ridiculous. But I want to know more about his philosophy because he doesn't seem that far off from base.
Chris?
Yeah. So I was really disappointed last night when I logged into Disney Plus and there was not a new episode for me to watch because I forgot that it comes out on Wednesdays and not Sundays.
Not Tuesday.
Tuesday, Monday, whatever. I don't know what day of the week it is. I forgot to put my trash out last night. My wife had to do it for me. She's like,
your pregnant wife had to do
yeah,
it?
I know, man.
Bro culture would not support you on that.
No,
Chris.
bro culture would support me on that.
Be a man.
Make your wife do
Toxic masculine culture would.
No, she was like, does recycling come every week or every other week? And I was like, it's every week.
Oh, she was playing you, yeah.
But it comes on Wednesdays, and she was like, I thought it came on Tuesdays, and I was like, oh, it does come on Tuesdays.
She straight up played you.
She did. She played me well.
She reeled you into that.
She knew. She knew what she was doing. No, anyway. All right. So first episode, I was cracking up. Like when he's driving the truck. Yeah, the wave, and then he's like driving the truck, and all of a sudden the truck's backwards, and like those little jumps and stuff, like the stuff where like things that you knew were gonna happen, like the scene where he goes back to watch the video, the surveillance footage of the museum, and you don't see anything. It's just him. Like you know that's what's gonna happen when he goes back to watch it, and yet it's still like delivered on that expectation. I agree. I think Ethan Hawke does a fantastic job as the villain so far. Like borderline, am I really a villain? Like, or do I have some good points, kind of thing? But in your heart of hearts, you still know that, like, all right, yeah, you can't just straight up murder people for stuff they might do. Like, you know, it's very Minority
he's not murdering
Report.
Them. His God is.
Okay, he's
just holding their hands. And
yeah,
them,
he's facilitating that. Like he may not be the electric bolt that goes through people, but he is the chair that they're strapped into. How's that?
I mean, that old lady walked up to him and she asked for it. So
I mean, it was episode 2 that he killed somebody that wasn't really scaled. Like at the end of the episode.
Yep.
So he did
the
murder
homeless
somebody.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll. So is that your take?
Yes, I think it's good. I don't have dissociative identity disorder, so I don't relate on that level. And it maybe if I watched it with somebody that did have that, they would be offended at how much I laugh at some of those moments where like he's arguing with himself. But I do think that I don't remember who the director is. I'd have to look it up. But I do think that they've done a masterful job of kind of showing the different personalities. The actor, I can't remember his name. I know it's Isaac something.
Isaac Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac, thank you. He is fantastic. He does a great job.
Daddy Isaac, as they say on TikTok.
Being able to get into each character. I know based on the limited amount of knowledge that I have on the Moon Knight comics that there are more than just 2 personalities that he deals with. And so that was one thing one question I guess I had for you, Joe, is you were talking about like how stark the contrast is or how quick the transition is for Mark and Steve. In the comics, there are sections. I saw one panel in particular where Moon Knight's having a conversation with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's like talking to Mark, and he's like, "Nope, I'm Steve now." And then he's like, "Oh,
Or
Steve."
I'm Conchu, yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm Jake," or whatever it is. Like, I'm Conchu. And so at least I don't know if that's just like a joke that Moon Knight's kind of playing at that point, where he's like, "Oh, I've got all these different personalities. I can just pretend to be these different people."
There's some of them. Some issues they play on that as a joke, but in general, it's not. No, the Moon Knight's pretty. He's pretty
messed
played
up.
off. Yeah, he's messed up, but he's pretty played off as like a straight man.
Okay.
So a lot of times somebody says something to him and he just like not reacts to it. Like say I'm above you. Like his whole thing with the Punisher, and the Punisher calls him a fake. Like, do you still have that fake God in your head? And he's like, is your family still dead? Yeah.
That's fair. I just rewatched season 2 of Daredevil, so I'm very fresh on the whole Punisher stuff right now. Andre, what do you think?
That wolf.
I'll be honest. The first episode, I didn't like it. I thought it wasn't enough story building, and
that was that manager lady, wasn't it? She pissed you off.
You mean Karen?
I think they should wait. I think they probably should have started with episode 2 and then did episode 1. Because I think episode 2 was a lot better than episode 1. I was trying to remove what I knew about Moon Knight from episode 1 unsuccessfully. And I just thought it was kind of boring. But pardon me, I enjoyed it. I just didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to like it. But I thought it was a good episode. I was like, I would have probably done episode 2 and then kind of shown more of Steven, because that would have been more like impactful for the story as opposed to episode 1 watching him fumble along.
I don't know. I kind of liked like that element of it, I guess. Like, I like the fact that it wasn't.
I didn't enjoy it.
Super clear at first, kind of. And granted, I had limited knowledge of Moon Knight going into it. I've done more research as I've kind of watched to try and figure out a little bit more of the backstory and whatnot. But yeah, like I thought that the stuff with him, like chaining himself to the bed, I'm like, well, wouldn't you know your own? No, right?
So in reference to that, when you wake up from a panic attack, you don't know who you are or where you are.
Right.
The problem I have with the show, it's going to be six episodes, and that's it. They're probably not going to do a season 2, they're probably not, because WandaVision is not getting a season 2. I don't think Falcon the Winter Soldier is going to get a season 2. They're actually going to get the Captain America 4 movie. So I think they're doing themselves a disservice. And that's the thing in the back of my mind. I'm like, I don't know if I would do the story this way.
Do you know about what the director said on Twitter and all that?
I'm sorry?
Do you know about what the director said about the possibility of continuing his story on Twitter?
I don't think they're going to do that, because, like, Marvel's in what? Phase 5 now?
Yeah. Something like that. After Infinity War, just kind of fizzled a little bit.
So they're basically just trying to set up the next batch of the Avengers 3, like, or the next group of Avengers, and hopefully the X-Men and mutants. You don't need Moon Knight for that, basically. So,
but then why do a Moon Knight show at all?
Because he's going to be one of those platform characters that help them to explain the mystical and the scary parts of Marvel.
And the Marvel Knights.
He's going to help with Blade. He's going to help with Werewolf by Night. There's a lot of things that happens when you introduce this part of the Marvel lore.
Yeah, it gets crazy.
And I do enjoy the show. Moon Knight's he is actually my Marvel Batman, but I still like Batman more. Like, I think Moon Knight's a knockoff with super abilities, where Batman's still Batman, basically.
I think where Moon Knight
Batman
suffers
is Batman?
You know what makes Batman and Iron Man like really cool? They were normal people.
Yeah, normal billionaires.
But so is Mark Spector. So that's the part that we're not.
Well, Moon Knight's always had a relatability issue, even in his comics. Like they've always underperformed. He's always had a difficulty, like maintaining his own comic series for a while.
He's what I would call a Class B like superhero, right? He can only do a good story with somebody else, right? He only does a good story with Blade. He only does a good story with Punisher. He only does a good story with Spider-Man.
It's like straight man.
But you're enjoying this show so far, where it's just Moon Knight.
It's just because I still have to resign to the fact that I enjoy seeing the characters in real life. Okay. I don't think I would have done the story like that.
The director of Moon Knight went on Twitter and started like this little campaign to try to get Marvel to agree to make a season 2 and or a movie, saying that they would be more than willing to put the time in to pre-write season 2 and a movie for them.
Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen.
I could see it happening. I think Marvel's got enough money. Disney has enough money.
Let's get that Moon Knight money.
I could see them doing it at some point.
Ain't gonna happen.